you one more.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
And I'll probably have you walk through that again, because again, you know, you put out Metal City, I know, critically acclaimed record, you know, fans and critics love that one, and pretty gratifying, I would assume, but, you know, I think at this point, you know, you added 3 tunes from that particular record, along with some other material, so if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, we got the Metal City stuff on there. And then we've got a couple of tracks from Extermination, the album before that, which I believe Destroy All Monsters and Tank Treads. And then there's a live version of Crash Bang Wallop, which is really the only old, you know, classic song on there from our live album, which came out in 2019. Screaming Murder, Death from Above, live in Aalborg, which is not a testicular disease, it is a city in Denmark, so there you go. Right. and to round it off, we've got all the B-sides and additional extra track stuff that we've accumulated over the years. It seemed to be a good idea to put all these orphans in one basket, put them all together. So you've got Necessary Evil, which I believe is a Japanese extra track for the Walk Through Fire album, which is very rootsy for us. It's got that glam rock kind of beat thing happening. It's a fun song. Space Station number 5, the Montrose classic, which, you know, it's got resonance for us because it was our closing song back in the late 70s, early 80s, when we used to play the working men's clubs back in the northeast of England. Always been a huge Montrose fan, so it was a lot of fun doing that. And we've got a cover of Bad Reputation by Thin Lizzy, which is a very cool song. And we'd done a covers album that was exclusively for, you know, Kickstarter back in 2015. And this track was an extra track in Brazil, I believe, so that was cool to have that on it. Then there's the Japanese extra track Rock This Town, which they did a lyric video for, which is out there on the interwebs to check out. And that's just a cool balls out rock and roll song, which really should have been on the record. I mean, the more we think about it, it's a good one. So right. It's good to have that in there. And then we have a live version of Stay Hard, which was recorded back in 2017, I believe in Tulsa, Oklahoma, of all places. And we were doing Stay Hard on that tour, and we hadn't played it in, 30 years, so it's good to have a document of that. It's a really cool version of it. Sounds really good. And overall, it's just, you know, planting the flag. Here we are. This is where the band is right now. And with a hint to where we're going, which is, you know, we have a brand new album in the can. We are starting to mix it right now, and that'll be out on our new label, Silver Lining. That'll be out in May of next year.
Nice. So in the meantime, the fans can check out Leave 'Em Bleedin', which is coming out September 30th, I believe, of 22. So, So, as far as going into the follow-up record, I mean, obviously you're saying that, you know, you guys are in the kind of, what did you say, mixing stages of that record?
Yeah, everything's recorded. We just have to, we've got our guy over there in Germany twiddling knobs and sending us stuff, and we're going, no, not yet. We're getting there, but...
How much pressure are you guys under, being that, again, going back to Metal City? I mean, that record kind of got you guys a lot of praise from the press, at least in the U.S. I know, you know, worldwide.
No, it was overall the best received record we've probably ever done.
Right.
I mean, short of the first record, I mean, it's the only one I can think of had anywhere near that kind of universal acceptance or acclaim, which is, you know, we knew it was a great record, and it's just icing on the cake that people agree with us. But we knew, I mean, that it was a tortuous road to get that record together and to get it out. There were so many ups and downs. It was, with the aborted first sessions that we had to cancel, and then we were going to do this and that, and then we ended up with Michael Wagner at his studio, and then the mix wasn't great, and then we went for like 3 or 4 guys with a mix, and then it was all set to go, and then we had to delay it because of touring considerations. We wanted to have the right package to go out in Europe with it, and then the pandemic hit. So at the end, we just said, we'll put it out in September 2020 and see what happens.
Right.
And of course, nothing changed, but at least nobody was out on the road and people were hungry for new music. So a lot of people got to hear it and got to like it. So that's, that's gravy. That's great.
Right.
As far as, that was a huge raising of the bar. We'd learned an awful lot doing Extermination as far as pushing ourselves and attending to certain fine details that maybe we'd not been as attentive as we should have been maybe in the past. We really locked down in the writing stages of things to try and eliminate any kind of fluff or dead air, or we were kind of vicious in the editing process with that, and that carried on into Metal City for sure. And just like Metal City, we had a huge catalogue of songs that we'd written for this new one, maybe 30, 35, and we just kept whittling it down. Not always necessarily like, well, this isn't a great song. It was like, well, this song's further along in development, and this one's not. So, maybe those songs will be reviewed later on, as happens.
Right.
There's 1 or 2 songs on this that could have been on Metal City, and they weren't ready then. They're ready now, so they're on this new one that's coming up. But I think we've done the job again. It's just great songs, well played, good, exciting arrangements, and so far the sound is killer. And we had more control on the sound this time since it was all done, kind of in-house and like from start to finish, as opposed to starting at one place and going somewhere else and then changing horses and all that stuff,
Right.
This is all, what we're happy with what we've got at the very beginning. As far as Mike's an amazing engineer and he's learned so much over like the last couple of years. And so his drum tracks, as far as on a technical quality, are like, wow. It's like really, really good sounding, to the point where like, you don't need a thought on with samples to boost this, that, and the other. It's real drums, and you don't get that very often these days. Anyway, it's all how do you like my Superior Drummer 3 sound? It's all fake. Half the stuff you hear is all fake. So we're not that kind of band, so it's good to have some good real sounds on this. And we were in Los Angeles. We played at a festival in Pittsburgh at the end of. I'm lost where it is now. It's probably June. We spent most of August, I think, getting this thing together, and we did a lot of songs because it was like, these are all great. We don't know what's going on the record. We wanted to follow the convention we did on Metal City, where it's 10 songs maybe, not too long, don't overstay your welcome, punch, 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 hit people over the head, so when it's finished they want to hear it again. There's a tendency for these bands to put out, here's 19, 20 songs on an album. It's like a double album version on a triple album. And unless you've got an overlying, like a concept or a theme, it gets to be a bit much, And especially these days with even the metal fans' attention span, I think, can wander a little bit if there's too much going on. So you try and make an impact. I mean, you remember those albums, like the Montrose album or the Van Halen 1 or whatever. They were like maybe 30, 32 minutes long, but there wasn't a dead dead moment in the whole thing. It was all killer, no filler.
Right.
And that's kind of what you want to, aspire to. So the tracks that we've got left over, so there's a couple of covers which are going to be on compilations, which I won't talk about yet. So one of them's definitely wacky.
Okay.
And one of them's a Christmas song. How about that?
Oh, wow.
And that's definitely wacky.
Right.
But it's not what you would expect. It's a good song. It's a good one. And then we've got like maybe 4 songs. 2 extra tracks for Wherever, and then 4 songs. So of those 6, we have to determine which the 2 extra tracks are going to be, and the other 4 could very well end up as an EP. There's a song that's kind of long and bluesy, and a little bit of a departure, and it doesn't really fit on the album, but it's a great song. So we figured maybe an EP is a great place for that,
Right. I was going to ask you, I mean, I know Montrose, is a huge influence on you guys, and you performed Space Station, in your set back in the day. Were you much of a follower with Hagar after Montrose, like some of his solo stuff? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when he came, I think he played Newcastle in maybe 78 at Mayfair. It was just phenomenal. Came back. He did very well in England. There was like the late 70s, early 80s. Was very popular. And, it was a great band. He had Bill Church on bass. I can't remember the drummer, Chuck Ruff, I think, initially. Gary Phil on guitar. They were just a great band. And he's always had a great work ethic, always put on a good show, always had that positive energy. And it was kind of weird, of course, him joining Van Halen. It's like, Van Halen pretty much modeled themselves on Montrose in a sense.
Right.
And then you read Ted Templeman's book, and it was like he was considering firing David Lee Roth and bringing in Sammy Hagar right at the beginning.
Right. Way back in the... Yeah, right.
Which, of course, would have been a terrible move back then. I mean, it made sense later on, but very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange indeed.
What did you think of the Van Halen Hagar era? Because I know, obviously you mentioned earlier Van Halen Roth era, but what did you think of the Hagar?
Yeah, it was a different beast. I mean, people are like, oh, I hate this or I hate that. I mean, I appreciated a lot of what they did. A lot of it was obviously very commercial, and it obviously brought out a different musical thing out of Eddie a little bit more, with the ballads and what have you. And it kind of wore a little thin, I think, by the end of it. But I think the first couple were definitely good albums, and I saw them live with that, and it was cool. But totally a different band,
Right. Right.
It's very strange. You just change one guy, change the singer, and boom, it's a totally different vibe altogether.
Sure.
But I got to say, I'd probably prefer the David Lee Roth version, just for its audaciousness.
There you go. Hey, I was gonna ask you. I mean, obviously, you get asked about Rock Until You Drop and Wiped Out and All for One, being that those are the classic records. And now Metal City, that's probably going to be in the mix too, at one point. But myself, I mean, I discovered you guys in '85. So with the Stay Hard record, and then Pack Is Back. And then Life's a Bitch. I mean, like, those were my Raven records, and obviously, I think those are somewhat controversial records, because at that point you get signed to a major label. There is a little bit more of a commercial aspect to it, but it's still very much Raven. What's your thought on those particular years, from Stay Hard through Life's a Bitch?
Yeah, I mean, Stay Hard pretty much is a natural successor to All for One. The sound isn't quite as bombastic, but as far as songwriting, it's not 1,000 miles away from it at all. The one that is more of an out there one is the Pack Is Back, where there was a lot of label pressure onto the producer and onto the management and onto us to make this nice and squeaky clean, and we'll be able to do X, Y, Z and take over the world. And, we kind of bought into that. And we had the craft to be able to do it, but it's not really where our heart lies, That being said, there's still a couple of really cool songs on there, but just a lot of the things. I mean, Rob went in and insisted on playing to a click track and playing the drums by himself, and doing it, just to bump, 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 totally destroyed the feel of anything, because the feel of the band, especially at that point, was all between, the push and pull between the guitar and the drums. Were Mark pushing the beat and Rob trying to hold it back. And it really gives it a different feel. This was like Rob holding it back, and then everyone else had to hold it back as well. At that point, there was no interaction on that. So it was just put it down to a learning period. We learned don't basically put stock in what a lot of people say, because quite often they're just full of shit.
Right.
To be blunt, we'll do this. We did this. They wouldn't even give us money to do a video. And it was just like, we got to completely rethink this. This is not happening. If I have to be in an outfit where we're creating product for somebody else, what's the point? We were in this to be a gang and to make our own music and make a noise. So we regrouped. We did the Mad EP, which was far more in keeping to what we would do, and then Life's a Bitch was a complete return to form, I think, on that. And from then on in, it was just like, we'll do what we like.
Right.
And if people like it, that's great. And if they don't, that's great as well. But at least we can sleep at night saying, hey, we did the best, and we did what we like. And you kind of got to do that, and I think people can sense that stuff, It's like when you've got the "oh baby babies" going on all the time. It's like, you're only just trying to, win over some 14-year-old girl in Wisconsin or something. That's not gonna. It's not very conducive to being creative. You know what I mean?
Right. On the Pack is Back, I mean, how did you guys go about selecting Eddie Kramer? And was that more of a label pressure again, or was it you guys?
It was we looked at a lot of people. One of them, hilariously enough, was Gene Simmons.
Oh, wow.
Johnny Z used to have the phone message when he was talking to Gene Simmons. He was like, well, these guys obviously couldn't write a song if their life depended upon it, but, luckily you've got me, and I'll be able to write a load of great songs, and I just need $100,000 to start. And, oh, my God, it was hilarious. It was like, he's not getting anywhere near it. And Eddie, of course, Led Zeppelin, Kiss, Bad Company. Who wouldn't want to work with him,
Sure.
And again, there's a producer who primarily, Jimi Hendrix too, worked with acts that were great live and tried to bring that live experience into the studio. It was all turned upside down, saying, no, we're going to do this high-tech heavy metal album, and it's all going to be, guitar synthesizer and tech and this and that and click tracks, and that wasn't his world, and it wasn't our world, so it was kind of silly, in retrospect. And we spent so long doing it, and that was the other thing at the time. It was like, we'll never spend this long doing a record again.
Right.
And we never have. I mean, probably the longest we've spent is on this brand new one, where Mike had done his tracks, and we came in and were very critical and meticulous, but there was a lot more songs as well, so it would take a little longer. So we were in for about a month getting all that together, and that was working every day for maybe 12, 14 hours. So we weren't slacking off.
Right. Now, who suggested the cover of "Gimme Some Lovin'" on Pack is Back?
I think that was our idea, funnily enough. I remember Johnny Z hilariously coming up with, you guys should do Hot Time Summer in the City by the Loving Spoonful.
Oh, wow.
And we rolled about the floor. And then another suggestion that came from the same department was The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
No kidding?
So this is the kind of thing that, we were kind of pushing against here and there.
Right.
So yeah, well, the line you've said, it's got that high voice. You can do the high voice. Like, yeah, we could do opera as well. I've got a high voice, but would we?
You're right.
So, Give Me Some Lovin', yeah, we loved the song. It was great, and it just ended up having all its genitalia cut off it slightly with, let's do another track of clean guitar. We'll just have this in the background, and it turns out, like, boom, that's right at the front. So, you know, those kind of decisions will never be left to anyone else ever again. It's like, no, we don't want that being recorded because we don't need it. It didn't need to be in there.
Right.
You know, it's fine for what it is. It's a pop rock version of a classical song. But what's really funny is the guitar synthesizer sound, which was very cool. And then Judas Priest put out Turbo, which is the same kind of album, really.
Right.
And it has the same guitar sound on Turbo Lover. Exactly the same. It's just like, wow, that dates you firmly into 1986.
Yeah. Wow.
Very strange.
Now,
But I mean, that was a rough year for rock bands, especially rock bands who were signed to major labels, because all they wanted to do, of course, was make money, but at the expense of everything else. So there's a laundry list of bands that actually got treated really badly, and for a while we were the poster child for that. Although a lot of other bands really got, I mean, Saxon, come to them, Judas Priest, just about any band you could care to mention on Atlantic at that point. Twisted Sister, Sabotage, whoever, you know.
right.
They were just basically idiots. They had no concept of the music. It was all about selling another can of baked beans, pretty much.
Right. Life's a Bitch. One of my favorite tunes is Pick Your Window. What's the story behind that?
That was a very aggressive song, and it was like a gangland type of thing. And it actually mentions a couple of local thugs that were. This character called Eddie Huggins was somebody that Rob and his brother knew at a rough part in Newcastle. So it was just a fun expression.
Right.
Kev, Rob's brother, would always have these wonderful malapropisms or, you know, wacky sayings, and you pick your window and you want to wake up with a crowd around you and all that good stuff.
Nice. Last thing on some of the discography, but the follow-up to that, Nothing Exceeds Like Excess. Again, now you go from major label back to like more of an indie, but what a record that one is. I mean, what's your thoughts on that particular record? Because
I mean, we had a shoestring budget.
Right.
It was done in upstate New York, but the songs are great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a great songs.
Like you just said, I mean, Life's a Bitch was a return to form. Nothing Exceeds, you know, is another one that's just kind of a continuation of that, right?
Definitely. And we, you know, Rob had left the band, so obviously we felt we had to, you know, up our game. We had a lot to prove, and some great songs. And, you know, long overdue us bringing a few of them back. I'd love to be playing either Die for Allah or Into the Jaws of Death. Great tunes.
Or Give Me a Break. I mean, that.
Give Me a Break was always our. You know, if you want to like knock 'em dead,
right?
That we would throw that into the set in the 90s, just at random. At one point, it would usually just turn into a feeding frenzy.
No, I mean, lots of great material with Raven, and I think the thing about it is that, you know, stuff like Give Me a Break, you know, is really relatable, I think, to the blue collar.
Absolutely,
and stuff like that. So, you know, lots of great stuff, and lots of great stuff on this new compilation, including, you know, like I said, you know, some of the material from Metal City, which, you know, again, a great opportunity to reintroduce some of the older fans that might have lost touch with Raven and see what's going on now.
Yeah, see where we are now and where we're going. Absolutely.
Just a couple more, and then we'll cut you loose. Thank you for your time. Have you ever considered penning a autobiography?
Well, I actually wrote a whole bunch of what would probably be chapters, which our Japanese promoter asked for to put up on their website, because initially I was like, I don't know if I could do this, but it was very easy. So, yeah, I guess I'm just waiting for a better ending.
Nice.
And it's coming.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've got the dreadful, behind the music. You know, they did great. They fell apart. They came back together. We've kind of got that arc happening. So
Well,
that's all good.
And what about that? Because again, when bands like, and not to say Anvil isn't didn't have their moments and stuff, but you have bands like Anvil having a documentary. I mean, definitely Raven with the history of some of the new wave of British heavy metal bands that you performed with that were contemporaries, and having Metallica support you guys and stuff like that. I mean, that would make for a great doc, I would think.
Definitely. I mean, we did a version of that in 2013. I mean, Mark really edited the whole thing together, called Rock Until You Drop, which is a pretty cool little overview of the band's history. But yeah, we'd certainly look to, because even since then, a lot of stuff's turned up, right. So we've got more content. But I don't think he'd want to do it. It drove him insane. The different formats and trying to make it work, because you kind of got to dumb down. You tried to bring the bad looking stuff up to a certain level, but then you got to kind of dumb down the good looking stuff. Otherwise, it's too different and it looks dreadful.
Right.
So. Yeah, he was working with like 4 or 5 formats, and it was driving him out of his mind. He locked himself away for about 6 weeks and came back with like eyes like road maps.
So last question.
But yeah, that's something we'd certainly look to do. Yeah.
So the last thing I got for you, because I do know you've been residing in the United States for decades now. So what was the reason for the move to just remain in the United States? There's got to be a great story behind that, right?
Well, I mean, we knew we had to come here and do it here. We were stuck in Newcastle. We weren't getting work. The record company was paying us maybe $20 a week, and we go there every week. What's happening? So, nothing. And it's like, no, we'd just been the year before, and that was wonderful in America, and we started to do stuff here, and we just didn't have any clout, didn't want to do anything, so we basically upped and moved lock, stock, and barrel to the States, and we're going to tour in '84 until we got a major agency and got a major record deal, and we did. And then we had to deal with the fallout of that over the next 2 or 3 years. Be careful what you ask for and all that,
Right. Oh, man.
But at that point, I mean, right now it's, I'm half my time in England, half my time over here. It's, we're international. Yeah. We're here, there, and everywhere, so.
Nice.
It's all good.
Well, thank you for your time. We'll definitely get this online. We'll plug the record, plug the band, and definitely best with the new record coming up next spring, and obviously probably a tour to follow, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Right, we got the tour starting next week for this Wiped Out anniversary, and about this time next year we'll be out celebrating All for One and the brand new album.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. I've got to jump this other guy's on here.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
Yep, bye.